come. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Take all the trees, put them in a tree museum. Charge the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you got till it's gone. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Spots on my apples, give me the birds and the bees. Please, don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you got till it's gone. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Till it's gone. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Last night, heard that screen door slam. Big yellow taxi took away my one man. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you got till it's gone. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Be paradise, put up a parking lot. Be paradise, put up a parking lot.
Great. Thank you, Job. Opening words. We gather beside the river of life. Rivers remember what we forgot. They carve mountains, nourish forests, carry fish, quench thirst, and connect communities. Today, we pause to remember that we belong to the earth, not as owners, but as grateful participants in its great web of life. May our worship deepen our love for this beautiful world and strengthen our commitment to care for it. It is now time for our story for all ages, which will be presented this morning by Joni Maskell.
Today we're going to read a book called King Solomon and the Bee. There it is. It's adapted by Delia Hardoff Renberg, and the story itself is a traditional Jewish folktale. So King Solomon was the wisest and smartest king of his days. Not only could the king speak every language in the world, he could also talk to animals. The king lived in a big palace surrounded by a magnificent garden where beautiful flowers grew. When it was hot in the palace, King Solomon took an afternoon nap under the shade of a broad leaf fig tree. One day while the king was sleeping, a young bee flew into the garden. And he buzzed from one pretty flower to another, happily drinking all the nectar. When it had had enough, the bee decided to rest and landed. And he landed on, of all things, the king's nose. This tickled the king. He was half asleep, and he raised his hand. The hand frightened the bee, and the bee stung the king's nose. The pain woke the King Solomon up as his nose became swollen and the pain grew worse and worse. His rage mounted. What insect dared to sting the king's nose. As his nose became redder and grew to be as big as a cucumber, he commanded with fury, "All bees, hornets, wasps, and flies, appear immediately before me," he demanded. From every hive and nest, from near and far, swarms of bees, hornets, and wasps and flies flew in a panic to the king's garden. They were all buzzing in confusion when King Solomon shouted, "Silence!" The hush fell upon all. Pointing to his nose, the king roared, "Who among you dared to do a thing like this to the king?" Nobody moved. Nobody buzzed. "Who among you dare to do a thing like this to the king?" Solomon repeated. A small bee flew straight to him and said, "I am the one, my lord, my king." Before the king had time to get angry and punish the bee, it pleaded, "Oh, my lord, my king, please don't be angry. I am a young and a foolish bee. I have not yet learned the difference between a flower and a nose, or between one nose and another, especially the low nose of my lord, my king. A nose with a rose-like fragrance and a banana-like grace." As the bee talked, a faint smile grew on King Solomon's face. The bee continued, "I have sinned and I am sorry. Do not be angry with me. Do not punish me, please. Who knows, maybe one day, my lord, my king, I will be able to repay you with a favor." King Solomon burst out laughing. "You, a little creature like you, will repay the king?" He laughed so much that he could not talk. He just motioned to the little bee and all the insects to fly away. His servant put ointment on his nose, and soon the pain and swelling went away. Before long, the king forgot all about the bee. One day, the king of Sheba came to the palace to visit King Solomon. She had heard how smart the king was, and in order to test him, she had brought with her all sorts of difficult riddles, puzzles, and questions. One by one, she presented them to the king, and one by one, he solved them. Then came the time for the last test. The queen brought to the throne several of her young maidens, each holding a bouquet of beautiful flowers. "Before you, O King Solomon, in the hands of the maidens, are bouquets of flowers. Only one of them is made up of real flowers. The rest are made by human hands. Do, O king, tell me which it is." The man-made flowers looked so perfect and lifelike that the king couldn't tell them apart. He looked and looked some more, and still could not tell them apart. The king was ready to give up when he heard a faint buzz outside his window. When the king saw a little bee, his eyes lit up. "Quick, open the window," he whispered to his servant. The window was opened. Without anybody else noticing, the bee flew in and headed straight to one of the bouquets. The king smiled, and he pointed to the bouquet where the bee settled. "That is the bouquet of the real flowers," he exclaimed, to the amazement of the queen. And that is how the little bee repaid the king. Most of us will never be tested by a queen from a far-off land, but we all need friends who help us see things we can't see alone. This story reminds us that we belong to one another and to the whole web of life, even the tiniest bee. Thank you.
Our lighting of our chalice initiates our worship journey together. At this time, I invite Christina Altus to start us off. We light this chalice for flowing waters, for living forests, for fertile soil, for clean air, and for all who work to preserve the fragile beauty entrusted to every generation. Let us rise in body and spirit, and as we sing our call to worship. Good morning. Welcome to Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church, or, as we say, BBUUC. I'm Claudia Marshall, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am glad that you are choosing to be with us this morning. So whether you are joining us for the first time or you've been a part of this community for years, we're glad that you are here. Today is a special Sunday. We're going to welcome the River Keeper to help us explore one of our treasures that connects all of us to our waterways. People often ask, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? One of the simplest answers that I can say is that, well, we're a faith without a creed or doctrine that everybody is required to accept, but instead we're a people who believe that the search for truth is lifelong. We ask questions, we learn from one another, and we strive to live by values that we have chosen together. We're also a covenantal community. That means that we promise to treat one another with honesty and kindness, respect, and compassion as we grow together. I want to just kind of say, Kris and I, our speaker this morning, we share a love of the rivers and waterways. Years ago, I moved away to Atlanta, Georgia, and I was surprised by what I missed the most. It wasn't restaurant or shops or anything like that. It was my river. It was St. John's River. I miss going over the bridges. I miss just seeing the water as I went over those things. And I just realized how much a part of my identity with the river, it's my home. So coming back to Jacksonville meant coming home to the river also. So today we'll have an opportunity to learn more about caring for this beautiful resource following the service. And we invite everyone to stay for a discussion where we as individuals and the congregation can do to help support our river. And please ask questions. Curiosity is welcome here. If we don't know an answer, we will gladly share it or find someone who will find an answer for you. Learning is something that we do as a community. We offer Learn About Us classes, okay, where you can explore our history, our values, and our community. Before you leave also, stop by the welcome table and get a name tag so we can call you by name. We'll tell you about our upcoming classes and events. And such as, I think I'll go ahead and do the announcements. Cindy Jorgensen is having a class next on the 2nd of August about, the gut and how that affects, how it affects our emotions and things like that. And, I forgot the other one. Lord, all right, that's me. But stay tuned. All right, so we're going to transition now to our opening hymn. Okay, and I invite the singers forward as we sing For the Beauty of the Earth. And we're going to sing all 4 verses. Oh, please rise. I'm sorry. And this time we will recite our Congregational Covenant. It's an agreement that we created during a really difficult time. It personally brings me a lot of comfort, and I am a part of this church, and we are joined together. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation.
What can I do for me today? Seems to be the common theme. Hooray for me, and who are you? Ain't what they say, but it's what they mean. Millions live without food and shelter. Without clean water, many people die. We feed our lawns with water clean enough to drink, while our dogs sleep warm and dry. It's the relentless pursuit of self-accommodation that keeps most people fighting on. And all I see and all I know leads me to think they might be wrong. I lost my religion, still trying to get it back. It's contradictory to me. The rich man, a camel, and the eye of a needle. It seems that's all they want to be. The rich man is all they want to be. It's the relentless pursuit of self-accommodation that keeps most people fighting on. With all I seek and all I know leads me to think they might be wrong. My favorite phrase is, what would Jesus do? I think he'd help a brother out. Wouldn't he live in some gated neighborhood? What it's holding in is worse than what it's keeping out. Yeah, what it's holding in is worse than what it's keeping out. Said what it's holding in is worse than what it's keeping out. It's the relentless pursuit of self-accommodation that keeps most people living on. With all I seek and all I know think they might be wrong. Yeah, I guess they might be wrong. Yeah, I'd say they're probably wrong.
Okay, it's time for us to participate in a way that we all, and every little bit helps. Rivers do not keep their blessings for themselves. They flow outward, nourishing every life they touch. May our generosity today flow in the same spirit, supporting this beloved community in the work of justice, compassion, and care for our world. At this time, I'm asking that our offertory ushers, David Willison and Marilyn Jones, come forward and help us take up our offering. And please pass the plate, continue the flow of the river. There is a song beneath the soil. 10 million voices raise their call in no human language. Life flows through the tangle of roots, mycelium, microbiota, and crawling, burrowing, tunneling life. The song flows upward through the trunks and stems and blades of tender grasses and races out into the air. It is picked up and carried on no human tongues. It is in the footfall of paw and hoof. It hums in the buzz of wings and the fluttering of feathers. It shines on scales and fins and slithering skins. And if we are quiet and pay attention, sometimes we remember that we are part of this song. And as well, we have notes to sing. The Anthropocene is an experiment What happens when we humans forget that the life around us is part of us, that these lives have no less inherent worth and dignity? How many more singers of the earth song will go silent forever? Today we are charged to remember, to know that as we live together in community, we are also in community with the silently singing lives in the vast congregation of the earth as well. The interdependent web of existence is no allegory. It is as real as the heart beating within our chest. We are charged to do what we can to help those who cannot advocate with human language. We cannot scream for help when they who cannot scream for help when they are suffering. We have a role to play in softening the blow of the age of humans. We have a voice that can help to shape the world to come. We are so charged in the name of the sacred song, the tapestry of life of which we are a part. Let us remember and then act. This time, introduce our speaker, Kris Kines.
Good morning, everyone. Last time I was here, my computer kind of goofed up, so I do have paper copies back there just in case. But before I get started, I just wanted to let you know it's been checked. The statistics stated in this sermon have been confirmed as current. We Are One by the Reverend Kaaren Anderson. I was driving in the car in late January with this podcast going on in my earbuds, and I swear to you, I almost had to pull over and breathe. It was so arresting. In December 2022, the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, COP15, met in Montreal, with almost all countries of the world participating and pledging themselves anew to a crisis that equals that of the climate. Turns out that the variety of life in species and ecosystems that is becoming extinct is currently unprecedented in human history. The global rate of species extinction is at least 10 to 100 times higher than it has averaged in over the last 10 million years. It is undoubtedly and beyond comparison a uniquely troubling moment in the history of the planet, which is, well, kind of an understatement. At the conference, there was a giant Jenga tower. You guys know what a Jenga tower is? With pieces all stacked, and you take one horizontal piece and you put it up on top. Well, if you don't know Jenga, it's a game you play, taking out those pieces and carefully adding to the top of the tower. Eventually, of course, the whole thing gets unstable and it collapses. So they cleverly used a giant Jenga tower at this conference to instill in everyone, just like the game, we aren't really sure what will make the ecosystem and the species collapse completely. But the more species that are taken out of the Jenga tower, the more unstable, of course, it becomes. The podcast gave many examples of how this was happening, from beetles to birds to coral to sea life, and on and on and on. One many of us undoubtedly know about is the disappearance of the pollinators, bees, butterflies, and bats. Now, I knew this, but I didn't realize the scale of the problem. 75% of crops benefit from animal pollination, and 1 out of every 3 bites that every American eats depends on these pollinators. One study found that the relative abundance of 5 bumblebee species has been reduced now by 95%. Farmers in desperation are now shipping in honeybees like they're domesticated contract workers. But even those bees are dying rapidly and inexplicably. The podcast reporter who was talking about this asked the host, "So what do you think is the major cause of all this loss of biodiversity?" And the host said, "Climate change?" And the reporter said, "Well, not really. It's third, actually. The first cause is human destruction. As a species, we keep taking over both land and sea areas that used to be wild for our use exclusively. The second cause is the direct exploitation of organisms, both animal and plant alike. And finally, if the climate crisis goes unchecked, it will be the major driver." So again, all these countries got together, and sure enough, they agreed to 23 target goals. The splashiest, if you will, is what they call the 30 by 30 protection of land and ocean use by 2030. It's a conservation level that's never been attempted before. So countries are pledging to protect wild areas and restrict them from activities of logging, fishing, and agriculture, or at least use them in sustainable ways. Right now, 17% of the planet is protected. Think of the national parks. But there's another, 13% that's got to be protected and not developed, which isn't easy when the population of the planet is growing. All right, thought bubble, population control, birth control. Side issue. And when push comes to shove, if countries need to feed their people because they are hungry, more wild areas will be used up and the goal can never get met. It's that simple. I finished the podcast having a hard time concentrating on anything. When I got home, I pulled up as many articles as I could find, and sure enough, one New York Times article suggested that the number one thing we can do is stop eating meat, or at least less meat, which, as the author said, would be a lot easier if meat weren't so beloved and delicious. He went on, quote, "Limiting access to cheeseburgers can turn politicians into ex-politicians. But the inconvenient truth is that when we eat cows and chickens and other livestock, we might as well be eating macaws, jaguars, and other endangered species," end quote. It was in that moment I felt like I did at the end of Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth on the Climate Crisis. It was a stirring film, a rousing documentary, a charge for change, and yet it ended, if you remember, with a whimper. It was a great description of the problem, but its prescription to the problem was to buy more fluorescent light bulbs, carpool more, recycle, perhaps buy a hybrid. I was left wanting and felt abandoned in the face of such catastrophic collapse and threat. So when I got done reading that piece about don't eat meat, or at least less, I 100% agreed with the charge, but it wasn't what I needed. I can get there, of course, as you can, but perhaps what we need is the reminder of the Earth's call, its constant buzzing of symphonic collision of songs, that we are brought back to life again, to the urgency and commitment needed. I'm going to deviate briefly from Reverend Anderson's sermon and share with you a similar experience. In my car, listening to a book titled When the Forests Breathes by Suzanne Simard, I felt the same sense of urgency. The earth is talking to us. We need to listen. In her book, she lays out the interconnectedness between the forest's mother trees and how their canopies facilitate the regular patterns of rainfall, which help control natural wildfires. In her 50 years of study with the Canadian Forestry Service, her team was discovering the myriad of microorganisms that facilitate the communication through the tree roots and the undergrowth, and how decay and fungal species create an environment that facilitates the new growth's ability to thrive. Sadly, however, clear-cutting practices were leaving mountain after mountain denuded of old growth. Without trees, there's nothing to absorb the rainfall, leading to increased flooding. With only grasses left, a spark of lightning brings wildfires that burn so hot that even the subterranean network of biomass gets destroyed. Then there's the unfortunate wildlife, left without regenerating undergrowth for food and protection. She recalls how heartbreaking it was to look down from a helicopter to see a mother bear and her cub. This was hard for me to read. Looking up at her from a field with nothing for refuge, just parsec after parsec devoid of trees. There's more to this book regarding her work negotiating with the Canadian government to regulate clear cutting, her continuous efforts with logging companies requesting them to leave some of the sections of old growth Indigenous people call mother trees. But we can imagine changing attitudes is difficult. However, making excuses that it costs too much to deviate from the tried and true logging practices is simply no longer a sustainable defense. Canada was all in at the COP15 convention, but we're all still feeling the effects of previous practices. Think about the raging fires, the Canadian wildfires going on right now. The smoke disregards the borders, and the air quality in Northeast United States is making news again. Ecology, environmental awareness, interconnectedness. Now take a moment to look at our own backyard. Here's some news about the sewage sludge setback. On June 30th, 2026, less than a month ago, Governor DeSantis vetoed the bipartisan Biosolids Management Bill, which passed the Florida House and the Senate unanimously. This bill would have ensured that increased production of Class AA biosolids does not result in increased nutrient pollution. Today, after the service at noon, we have an opportunity to have a conversation with Lisa Rinneman from Jacksonville's Riverkeepers organization. I hope you will stay and learn more about how we can be of service. I will return now to the conclusion of Reverend Anderson's sermon. I left off with, perhaps what we need is the reminder of the earth's call, its constant buzzing of symphonic collision of songs, that we are brought back to life again, to the urgency and commitment needed. My husband and I used to leave our windows open in March and April in upstate New York because the peepers would start singing to us from the back pasture. This past Friday night at a friend's house for dinner, before we left for the night, we walked onto their back porch, and there was a cacophony of chirps and glorious song that was almost deafening with Florida peepers. Staring out the window in my office, looking at the lush Florida landscape and bees buzzing around the hibiscus, that peeper song came back to me, and it struck me that we need not only listen to the right song of the earth to get motivated, perhaps we have to ask the right questions too. So I close with this poem I wrote, Reverend Anderson wrote, in dedication to our calling, our commitment, and our resistance to ask the hard questions. Perhaps if I could pull my senses back to the scraping squeak of the window opening that welcomes the pasture's chorus of peepers into my room, whose resonant tones glide over my bedsheet in mental haze, I remember to listen to my amphibian friend's primordial call. We are one. We are one. We are one. Perhaps if I could recall the rapid thrum of 9 hummingbirds beating wings, whipping in and out and around the feeder with a thrum, 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 one cold Montana morning in May, I'd remember that my heart beat synced with metronomic ease to their tiny thrumming selves, again calling, we are one, we are one, we are one. Perhaps if I could be real still and lay my body on the syrupy mud along the creek behind the wood, I could hear the ferns unfold in unison and the roots of the poplar stretch towards the spring. I'd remember that the universe sings a song to us each minute of every hour, of every day, of every year. We are one. We are one. We are one. Perhaps if I made it a priority to listen to that siren song, I'd ask the right questions and make the right statements and return to the communion of creatures of which I am a part. The truth is, we make this planet about us and only us, and when we do, the earth calls our separate selves back singing. Ask yourself, you beautiful, thoughtful, gorgeous species, how much of the planet are you really entitled to? How much of the planet are you really entitled to? And with the peepers and the hummingbirds and the ferns and the roots, I would respond, we are one. We are one. We are one. Thank you.
It is time for us to end our worship and begin our fellowship. As the singers come forward, we will sing The Blue Boat Home. Please rise. I don't know why I'm forgetting it today. God.
Standing on these mountains.
call Christina to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of hope, nor the warmth of compassion, nor our commitment to care for one another and for this beautiful earth whose rivers continue to call us home. Namaste. Blessed be.